Well, good afternoon, and thank you very much for inviting me. This is session number 3, which is called Development Cooperation from the Perspective of Southern and Eastern Mediterranean Countries' Needs. And also it's called the After Lunch session. So it's the most challenging one of all time, but I'm sure my colleagues here will make it so entertaining that you will forget about what you already ate. My name is Manuel Nogales. I'm the managing director of Acodea, which is a Spanish agri-agency. It's basically the tool that the Spanish agricultural and cooperative sector has for cooperating with agricultural sectors from other countries, no? Always strengthening farmers' organizations and cooperatives as a way of providing value to farmers and to boost growth and development. For this session, I'm accompanied here by 4 very interested that I didn't meet before persons, but now I was researching a bit, and I think we have a good combination of people here under the table. I will introduce them in a minute, but I wanted to provide some opening remarks for the session as a context, as this session offers a valuable opportunity to shift the focus towards the voices of those countries that are at the center of many cooperation initiatives, the countries that not only receive support, but increasingly define their own development strategies and partnerships. In the current geopolitical context, marked by shifting alliances, budgetary pressures, and competing global priorities, their perspectives are essential for understanding how cooperation must evolve to remain relevant and effective. We will reflect on key questions, as how are the national and regional institutions preparing for possible reductions in international cooperation resources? What measures are being taken to protect and advance agricultural development programs under these new conditions? And how can local innovation and research systems continue to drive transformation when external funding becomes more uncertain? To help us address these issues, we are joined today by representatives from the African Development Bank and from key agricultural research and policy institutions in Lebanon, Egypt, and Morocco. Their insights will help us understand not only the challenges ahead, but also the opportunities for new forms of collaboration in the Mediterranean region. And I'll proceed to introduce the first speaker of the table, who is Fernando Ledo. Fernando is a Counsellor on Food Production and Agriculture at the African Development Bank. He studied economics at the University of Buenos Aires and holds a Master in International Relations from the Barcelona Institute of International Studies. He has over 17 years of development experience, working in Central America, Mexico, and later Africa for Intermonoxfam. And since 2014, he has been based in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, at the African Development Bank, where he served as the senior advisor to the executive board. He currently advises the Agriculture and Agroindustry Department, focusing on technology transfer for maize, soybean, and rice production in semi-arid savanna regions. If you like, Fernando.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. Bonjour, salam alaikum to my colleagues of the table. I will switch to Spanish to do my presentation, but I want to first thank you, CIHEAM, for inviting us, and also allow the African Development Bank to be connected to the very interesting institution, which I think that we can explore how we can collaborate together. And also thank you to the staff to help me to come back to home, to allow me to present what we are doing in the African Development Bank. So I switch, and una de las cosas interesantes que me pareció esta propuesta de vincular los cambios de geopolítica y sistemas alimentarios, y particular en este momento, es porque estuvimos viviendo desde los sistemas alimentarios y de las políticas que aplicábamos a la región. Tuvimos un gran shock en el año 2022 y un poco esta presentación empieza explicando algunos aspectos de fragilidad de los sistemas alimentarios que este shock retiró el velo, ¿no? La visión tradicional de los sistemas alimentarios en África están concentrados en la falta de producción, en lugares que hay crisis, sequías, inundaciones, crisis de guerra. Pero bueno, este shock que afectó en principio la cadena de suministro empezó a mostrar un montón de dependencias que estaban en nuestros sistemas. Recuerdo que veníamos monitoreando los precios previos a la declaración de invasión y a la invasión de Ucrania. Ya un poco los precios de Chicago empezaban a mostrar perturbaciones en los mercados de cereales que para nosotros son claves. Habíamos tenido un aviso con el COVID, con los precios del transporte, por la falta que había de contenedores y otros aspectos que afectaban a la logística que recibía África. Entonces, en ese sentido, voy a poner ¿cómo es la presentación? La estoy viendo en el ordenador, pero no la veo. Ok, ok. Ok. Bueno, un poco el punto de partida de elegir tres aspectos importantes de la fragilidad de los sistemas alimentarios africanos que nos toca trabajar nos permite también un poco entender la respuesta que nosotros hicimos. Esto puede ser una primera lectura de cómo la guerra y los cambios en los sistemas, en los problemas de geopolítica en la región, que tampoco nos afectaban directamente a nosotros, era una cuestión de Rusia, Ucrania, en la parte central de Europa, nos empieza a afectar, ¿no? Entonces, un poco esos rasgos de fragilidad explican un poco cómo nosotros diseñamos la respuesta y después también explican cómo esos mismos factores de geopolítica nos están afectando a largo plazo. Es decir, los cambios que hay en las prioridades de asignación de fondos para la cooperación oficial al desarrollo, cómo nosotros como una institución multilateral nos vemos impactados y qué opciones tenemos y cómo esas opciones sí pueden reflejarse en las políticas que tenemos para la producción alimentaria. Entonces, básicamente, un poco de los pilares de los tres puntos de aspecto de la fragilidad de los sistemas alimentarios que me gustaría destacar. Primero es el problema que tenemos con la productividad. El problema que tenemos con la productividad, si vemos un poco los índices que tenemos en África promedio comparado con Europa, América, y también tenemos algunos índices bastante más bajos dentro de la media europea, plantean un gran problema que tiene varias aristas. Una primera arista clave es el ingreso a los pequeños agricultores. No está alcanzando la poca producción por hectárea que tenemos, no alcanza para los ingresos, no solo para producir alimentos, sino también para generar cash para otros gastos que tienen. Un segundo aspecto que le agrega la fragilidad es que no podemos estructurar cadenas de valor locales. Son tan pequeñas las masas, los volúmenes de producción que no nos permiten estructurar unidades de procesamiento y no podemos encadenar un poco en la producción local, en la zona de producción local, hacia un mercado principalmente urbano que voy a hablar ahora. Y un tercer punto también es la dependencia que está creando esto, ¿no? Entonces tenemos estos tres problemas que son base de la productividad. Un segundo aspecto es la manera que estamos o que se están acentuando los los sistemas de producción de alimentos, los sistemas de producción de materias primas alimentarias y cómo estas están afectando. Nosotros tenemos, por ejemplo, un ejemplo claro, ¿no? Nos comparamos, no porque queremos ser como, pero si nos comparamos la cantidad de producción de alimentación por hectárea que tiene el sudeste asiático y lo que tenemos nosotros, podemos ver que la mayor o todo el aumento que tuvieron en volumen de alimentos se ve por un aumento en la productividad por hectárea. En cambio, nosotros, el aumento de la producción, que encima es mucho menos, se basa en extender la frontera agrícola. Esto está causando un montón de problemas en la degradación de los sistemas, las bases naturales de la producción agropecuaria. Entonces ahí tenemos un punto clave de nuestra fragilidad. Un tercer factor, ¿no?, es el tema de la urbanización. Ahí 2 de cada 3 africanos o subsaharianos estarán viviendo en las ciudades. Entonces esto está empezando a impactar fuertemente, primero, en la demanda de alimentos. Cuando separamos a las poblaciones de los centros de producción, empezamos a ver un cambio de consumo. Netamente se puede ver lo que pasa con la demanda de alimentos de origen animal, como es la producción, como es la preferencia por huevos, carne de pollo particularmente, y también productos lácteos, ¿no? Entonces, ¿cómo hacemos? Con una base productiva de estos bienes no tenemos cadena de valor y encima tenemos ciudades, sobre todo podemos pensar en Lagos, Costa de Marfil, Senegal, Accra, muy cerca de los puertos, donde se empiezan a crear sistemas de alimentos que son dependientes de materias primas importadas. No solamente somos importadores netos de productos alimentarios, sino también que somos, de las producciones locales que tenemos, somos dependientes de la importación de materias primas para hacer correr esas cadenas de valor local. Entonces, bueno, la crisis, lo primero que puso bueno, esto no es nuevo, lo que puso en relieve fue las cadenas de suministro global y el riesgo que implicaba estar sujetos a poblaciones urbanas y, bueno, en general a todos, porque vemos sacos de maíz indio a 500 kilómetros del puerto en África. Entonces ya es un sistema que está fuertemente dependiente de las importaciones. Entonces, claramente, bueno, ahí tenemos un ejemplo de cómo la crisis global nos impactó a corto plazo. La clásica dependencia del norte de África sobre los cereales de Rusia y Ucrania, pero no solamente en el norte, tenemos Benin, los casos, hay otras cadenas de valor que están configuradas de esta manera. Hay un consumo de trigo y de pan en lugares donde no se produce, que es sobre todo los biomas tropicales, y quedan muy conectados y muy dependientes de las cadenas globales. Entonces, frente a esa crisis, nosotros desarrollamos el programa de intervención pensando en dar un shock de oferta local, ¿no? De invertir, bueno, ahí no estoy viendo, perdón, de invertir 1.6 billions de unité de compte, que puede llegar a ser casi 2 billones de dólares, más un apoyo bilateral que tuvimos de los 5 países, que aportaron en total 300 y pico de millones de dólares, para básicamente producir semillas, financiar fertilizantes, mejorar la asistencia y la extensión agrícola y empezar a hacer políticas para conectar esos mercados. En el proceso de construcción de este proyecto ahí se desvela también un segundo problema de fragilidad que teníamos. Empezamos a descubrir que los sistemas nacionales de semillas estaban completamente muy lejos del óptimo que tenían que brindar. Teníamos semillas del año 60, del año 70, tenemos un gran problema de actualizar la tecnología. Imagínense con el cambio climático, todas las diferentes ventanas de producción que hay para los cereales en la región, todo eso se está enfocando con semillas del año 65, del año 70. Entonces ahí un poco empezamos a ver que hay un problema, ¿no?, de cómo la cooperación y los sistemas de alimentos no se conectaron bien, ¿no? O sea, África, sobre todo después el periodo de independencia, realizó unas políticas de tratar de construir cadena de valor en los 70, en los 80, que después con las políticas neoliberales del 90 y del 2000 desestructuraron todas las cadenas de valor locales, permitiendo las importaciones, que eso terminó y con la ventaja de tener los costos cada vez más, costos internacionales de transporte cada vez más fuertes. Entonces, bueno, ahí tuvimos una intervención en 24 países y acá hay un segundo punto importante. Estas operaciones fueron préstamos, fueron PBO, apoyos presupuestarios. Entonces, a diferencia de un grant, un préstamo implica un mayor ownership del gobierno receptor porque incorpora su deuda. Entonces, ahí tenemos una pequeña o una primera muestra de interés de los gobiernos que reconocen que quieren, que necesitan y que es deseable reestructurar las cadenas de valor locales. Entonces, de nuestra respuesta de corto plazo, se viene también el problema de largo plazo que se origina también un poco, creo yo, en lo que generó la crisis de la guerra de Ucrania, la fatiga un poco de la energía de los donantes tradicionales hacia nuestra institución. Hay problemas presupuestarios, empiezan a haber cosas. Y este año, nosotros, para explicar un poco la institución, el grupo del Banco Africano son 3 grandes institutos o 3 grandes instituciones juntas en un grupo. Tenemos el Banco Africano de Desarrollo, tenemos el Fondo Africano de Desarrollo y después tenemos una serie de trust funds temáticas donde los gobiernos de manera bilateral o multilateral creamos fondos específicos para trabajar con casos puntuales. ¿Por qué? Porque a veces las agendas políticas del banco y del fondo no son las mismas. Entonces hay preferencia de algunos donantes de desarrollar alguna entidad, alguna política sectorial sobre algún punto. Entonces, claro, el Banco Africano es un banco, entonces su capacidad prestable depende un poco también del nivel y la capacidad de absorción de capital de riesgo de los países beneficiarios. Entonces tenemos un mapa que se divide, ¿no? Donde el Banco Africano puede dar préstamos multilaterales al norte y al sur de África, y después, toda la parte un poco más frágil del continente, nosotros tenemos que usar el Fondo Africano de Desarrollo, que es una entidad que da préstamos concesionales y grants. Entonces, ¿por qué quería hacer esta diferenciación? Porque la estructura política es distinta. El Banco Africano de Desarrollo es un banco que originalmente fue 100% africano, cuando se creó. Después, a medida que fue avanzando, en el 70, en el 73, se vio obligado un poco a abrir el capital y a seguir un poco una estructura accionaria como el resto de los multilaterales, como es el Banco Interamericano de Desarrollo y el Banco Asiático de Desarrollo, pero mantiene un 60% de control de África. Entonces los gobiernos africanos manejan un 60%. No así el FAD. El FAD, que es una entidad que financia un poco más de los países que son más necesitados frente a los otros, es una estructura que es 50-50, ¿no? Ese 50 es el banco y 50% son los países no regionales que integran el Banco Africano. Y ahí tenemos una fuerte presencia, son los responsables del financiamiento de este instrumento. Y este instrumento se financia cada 3 años. Entonces, cuando vemos qué es lo que está pasando, el banco tiene una estructura accionaria que recibe fondos, los dueños de las acciones o los países tienen derecho a mantener su cuota de poder, aportando el porcentaje inicial. El fondo es un poco diferente, entonces depende de cuánta cantidad de dinero ponen cada 3 años en los ciclos de replenishment. Ahí es donde vemos el cambio ahora, ¿no? O sea, este año están avanzadas, casi el mes que viene terminan las negociaciones para el IDF 17, que va a financiar los proyectos de desarrollo para esos países grises, que están marcados en gris, ¿no? Que son países grises, en los próximos 3 años, y vemos ya la historia. Se esperaba que mantenga su presencia, que era 500 millones de dólares, la bloquea completamente. Le sigue Suecia. otro país que nunca se hubiésemos esperado que no participe en el fondo. Francia, uno de los grandes donantes del fondo, anuncia que no puede mantenerse. Y entonces están las negociaciones viendo cómo los actores dentro del G8, para no perder la preponderancia, tratando de ver quién pone un poco más. Bueno, Dinamarca va a intentar de completar algo por el lado de los nórdicos, pero bueno, acá hay una innovación. Bueno, está ahora, hace 4 meses, hace 2 meses asumió un nuevo presidente en la institución, que es el antiguo, y él viene con una gran fuerza de los países árabes. Logró un capital increase muy importante para el otro banco y ahora estamos en negociaciones. Pero claro, Arabia Saudita y los otros países árabes dicen, bueno, no sé si el FAD es el mejor instrumento donde nosotros podemos invertir, no lo sabemos, porque bueno, las prioridades políticas de este instrumento responden al G8 y responden a Europa y quizás no son las mismas. Entonces nosotros por ahí podemos crear otros fondos temáticos, entonces dejar un espacio en la mesa del FAD e invita a otros actores que por ahí no tienen las mismas prioridades políticas, sobre todo si estos actores pertenecen a Asia y a Middle East, que son importadores netos de alimentos también. Entonces ya la visión... entonces este escenario nos da 3 preguntas, ¿no? Entonces, esta distribución de poder que está pasando ahora y se va a confirmar en diciembre, ¿qué va a pasar con las políticas? ¿De qué vamos a hablar? Es que si los nuevos actores que vienen van a seguir viendo la cooperación como la estuvo viendo hasta ahora una institución que estuvo tradicionalmente direccionada con los donantes del norte, digámoslo. Y segundo, y es un punto interesante, que es lo que vengo a plantear aquí, es qué va a pasar con el modelo productivo, con estos 3 puntos de fragilidad que mencioné al principio. Es que vamos a cambiar un enfoque de tecnología, vamos a un modelo asiático, intensivo pero no sustentable, o es que la experiencia europea, conceptos de cadena de valor locales, como se mencionó hoy, como se mencionó un poco un ADN compartido respecto al monopolio de cuando se habló sobre la concentración de las cadenas globales de cereales que se mencionó en la primera presentación. ¿Cómo vamos a hacer? ¿Tiene lugar la economía circular en esta nueva idea de crear cadenas de valor cercanas, cerradas, que permitan mayor seguridad alimentaria, más sustentabilidad y también más cantidad de alimentos que lo que necesitan las ciudades? Bueno, un poco esa fue mi manera de responder a la consigna de hoy y bueno, creo que es un buen ejemplo. Gracias.
Thank you very much, Fernando. We will go back to some aspects of your presentation later on. But now we go to Kanj Hamade. He's an economic development consultant and academic based in Beirut and Athens, with over 20 years of experience in agriculture, food security, sustainable livelihoods, labor market systems, and rural development. He has worked across NENA countries with UN agencies, donors, NGOs, and research institutions, leading evaluations, evidence-based programming, and policy research. He holds a PhD in agricultural economics from the University of Bologna and is a CIHEAM Bari alumnus. He previously served as assistant professor of agricultural economics at the Lebanese University. And Kanj, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation, and thank you for the previous topic, the previous session that will also serve me a bit in my presentation. I think that my presentation will be a bit different, not because it's special, but simply because it's highly focused on one single country and one single context, but I think it can give you some ideas also and link it to what was done previously. And since I am an independent consultant and I don't represent anyone, so I can just embarrass myself and that would be fine. So I prepared, I don't know if I can fix it in 10 minutes. We were asked to do 10 minutes, but what I will do is present rapidly the key element of the Lebanese agro-food context, or let's say agro-food food systems, and discuss what I think is in terms of cooperation inside our country. We have 5 key challenges or 5 issues that I think are important and more related to the political aspects. We talked in the previous session, one of the intervenants said that finance is easy, policy is more difficult, and politics are more difficult, and this is particularly important and particularly the case back home. The 5 challenges, we can summarize them now and then go a bit into more detail, is the idea of how to engage the state and pushing for reform our policy system, how to engage a state who in its organic constitution is not ready to make any reform and do not wish to make any reform. How to is in that context, how to avoid the replication of unfair food system. Is cooperation not simply replicating the same unfair system that were present before if they are not able to push this government into policy action or into reforms? How to escape the humanitarian trap. Lebanon has been particularly facing a compounded crisis. We're talking about the Syrian crisis and the influx of refugee and different crises, and how to make sure we do not fall into this humanitarian trap. One major challenge upcoming in the future is a post-war reconstruction of South Lebanon. And what is the question that cooperation or organization and entities and donors should ask themselves on how to deal with that. And I think there is also coming from us, I mean, I'm talking as Lebanese, but, and then our colleague from Palestine will also have a word, how to, can we still trust in common value? Can we still talk about common value, and how to make sure that we are able to reclaim those shared value that were most needed and maybe not present from part of our partners in Europe when we most needed them. So in terms of context, just to understand the other challenges, Lebanon is a Lebanese system is a very laissez-faire system. The state intentionally do not intervene, and it was the case since independence. It let go. And this letting go of most economic sector, especially including in food and agro-food, created a highly heterogeneous economic structure. And we were discussing with colleagues, Lebanon is a upper middle income country, so why does it have all these problems? So in a way, it's we have sectors that are highly capitalized with high capital accumulation downstream and upstream. If we're talking about farming, if we're talking about value about food systems, but also at the same time very small fragmented farm and scattered agro-food initiatives that usually lack collective organization or scaling capacity, which leaves us with an agriculture and food sector which is highly, and this is a terminology used by an academic in the mid-70s and still the case today. We have a food sector that is, in his words, subordinated to finance and trade. And this absence of coherent agricultural policy reinforced a system where it's mostly an oligopolistic system, food market system in which few actors control most of the operation and the big things. As I said, it's also a system that is averse to reform and change, and it's often misinterpreted by donors or by cooperation entity as a lack of capacity. The public institution need capacity building. Well, they need some financial capacity building mostly, but their incapacity to go through reform and policy change is mostly done in purpose. It's mostly that they don't want to. And we can support that by many examples. Okay, this is a bit heavy, but I was asked to support the translator with a big slide, so I did. So how to engage the state and pushing for reform. So the state in his laissez-faire was even worsened after the civil war, where the state became very fragmented. and its authority became fragmented and created a mosaic in which there was different layer in which the state negotiates its authority with non-state actors and political and economical actors. And in this process, it kind of effectively outsourced its development responsibilities toward this a part of the system that is small and fragmented to donor-funded projects who often operate in silos. But the idea is, as a Lebanese state, I'm happy with what's going on with the big capitalized process. We have also this problem of redistribution. You donors can take care of it. And this system was kind of resisted a bit by donors and corporations who tried also to build policy to go into reforms, especially in the early 90s, did ultimately wins. And you have this overlapping parallel policy arena and sphere of influences where each donor defines its own priority, its own partners, its own beneficiary, and that system of everyone working in silo and independently kind of further weaken national ownership and coherence for the prospect of national policy, which is basically do whatever you want, each one in its own field. And again, this is not necessarily something that the Lebanese policymaker wants to change. They're okay with that. Since all the state work in a bit in this kind of separated parallel political power sphere. However, this fact that the state is averse to change is a bit problematic because most cooperation framework work about the need for reforms. They say you need to reform, you need to change. We will not fund you if you do not change. We will not fund you if we don't change. Till now, the Lebanese state has won the equation because all the equilibrium always comes that the interest of donors into funding this particularly small country, but very important in terms of geopolitics, overcomes the fact that they want reform. So most donor intervention continue to bypass reform component, focusing on short-term delivery. And actually, since 2015, because there is always a lot of politics and many donors refuses to work with the Ministry of Agriculture, basically many interventions just bypassed or outlined or put aside the Ministry of Agriculture or other organization and did basically whatever they wanted, not necessarily bad, and whatever they wanted is not necessarily not good. It's just not done alone. Now, recently, we have a more post-war MAO, Minister of Agriculture initiative to regain agency over aid, which might be currently an opportunity to size. It's something new. We ourselves, Lebanese, don't know really what to think about it. It's a totally new approach, and it might be just temporary because of individual initiatives. So in this situation, the second challenge in a situation where policymakers are either not involved or let you free ride on your intervention as you wish, again, not necessarily in a bad way, how to make sure that this cooperation process do not reinforce existing power asymmetry in the food system. How to make sure that this program do not support that. And we have two interesting, one very important example and one a little bit, I mean, in a scale smaller, but of interest because it's from CIHEAM. Most major donors continue to support politically affiliated organization or oligopolistic value chain market. We had our colleague intervention from USAID lately. He talked that you should not do something if you are alone, which is, I mean, Lebanon is a particular case. I'm sure USAID everywhere tried to find support, but in Lebanon, USAID did exactly whatever it wants and alone, like without the government and without any other donor. And usually the system might just replicate the same system of the same food system you had before. And if corporations just want to replicate the system, well, in a certain way, civil society can say thank you, but we know how to do that ourselves. The capital can do it without this type of support. And unfortunately, even a small example, for example, CIHEAM body is recently and currently undergoing a process of reform of the seed law. But somehow it ended up just engaging private sector and ministry and left aside all the burgeoning, the nascent agro-food, agroecology movement and other initiatives, like the Right to Food Law initiative that is done by one member of parliament under the FAO food system SDG, forgot the name, framework, but like, again, an institution that maybe mistakenly or unintentionally put aside civil society, put aside also other framework. So we are this situation. We really need a support that empower farmers, empower cooperative, empower small producer, not only technically but also politically, in a sense that would allow them to kind of form their organization, form their groups, be able to discuss in policy panel, be able to support donor to push for the needed reform, to push for the state transformation, for taking this mandate seriously and not just say, well, great, the World Bank will take care of that, or FAO will take care of that, we can continue business as usual. So we need to focus also on inclusive upgrading, not just export competitiveness, encourage collective action and transparent market governance. The agenda of this, I'm not saying that because I'm in Spain, but I do have some bias for Spain. And the latest, the program that was presented on the Spanish cooperation fit into this idea. I was happy to not hear the word competitiveness. I was happy not to hear the word export in this presentation. And I think this could be also adapted to our context. So the idea is cooperation should rebalance the food systems, empowering producer, and not necessarily those intermediary or dominant actor involved in the value chain. Maybe to the less extent, and we're trying to get out of it recently. So as I said, since 2011, most funding is framed under the humanitarian response framework with early, but when this humanitarian crisis kind of stabilized, because Lebanon was able to absorb Syrian refugee for historical, cultural, and many other reasons. So vulnerability mostly became linked to the economic system and not due to the influx of refugee or to the presence of refugee. We had Syrian migrant labor before, we still have Syrian migrant labor today, and they are with a lot of problems that create, but ultimately there is a kind of symbiosis with that. So we were able to absorb this humanitarian shock, but the problem is that intervention kept short-term relief, kept and did not go into this idea of nexus, humanitarian development nexus, and also the humanitarian approach, because there was a lack of trust in the state that changed sometimes to trust them openly. And you have some reports from the World Bank that should were very aggressive toward the government in a very surprising way. There is a joke about it, but I will tell it at dinner. And the humanitarian approach further supported this bypassing government institution and focusing on municipalities. So again, weakening the idea or the prospect of a national policy. So we need to shift toward recovery, toward market revival, local investment, and adopt this idea to transition, or this idea of nexus, but also this idea to transition from a crisis management, compounded crisis management, to actually economic development. The fourth challenge is South Lebanon reconstruction, and here you can see one example of one village in South Lebanon, where how it looked before and how it looked after. So just like in Gaza, we're talking about total destruction, especially in the line of villages that are close to the border. And those of you who have visited recently, even if they most probably couldn't be able to go there, have an idea of what's happening. To date, no funds have been committed for the reconstruction of South Lebanon, nor for the return and recovery of displaced community. Very little fund, very redirecting of existing fund and project. I know that some people among you are preparing something, and this is great news, but and very important. But ultimately, there is no proper plan for how this area is going to be reconstructed, and how people are going to go there. Well, we're not naive, and we know that aid and cooperation inevitably reflect donors' policy agenda, stabilization, migration control, regional influence, and so on. And to some extent, that's okay. But however, is this idea, the lack of fund after 1 year of war and 1 year of destruction, can we ask ourselves, is also aid and cooperation a bit weaponized, a bit used to install and to further shape post-war realities, part of the war following, that this area should be go to a certain model of development or go to a certain direction, and aid is somehow, at least for the hard infrastructure component of it, till now we feel that it's contingent on political concessions or concessions that sometimes are not easy to make. So is it condition is by politics, or does it still serve recovery, or is just containment just to make sure this area doesn't blow up again? And I do want to mention this. We in Lebanon for the last years, and also I mean, I'm not going to talk about on behalf of my Palestinian colleagues. They can obviously mention that, but we had questioned ourselves several times: is does Europe stand by its value? Does European governments still stand by their values? And this is like increasingly important with the US government shift from development aid to real estate model driven of development, and if any, when genocide, displacement, or ethnic cleansing are normalized or even indirectly supported by relocation schemes, or talk about South Lebanon economic buffer zone or reconstruction, and the limited stand on this issue. Limited states have taken position. Most EU states remain passive, revealing double standard in defending standard value like international laws and human rights. We're not talking about revolution, but really about basic commonly agreed liberal values. So how can cooperation be trusted to support reform, recovery, and civil society empowerment when double standard is part of government's policy? Meanwhile, Mediterranean geopolitics, as we talked, is shifting. Many have talked about an enlarged Mediterranean, and the dynamic are changing. Tunisia, Algeria, and obviously before Algeria are energy providers. The power dynamic is going to shift. Europe is not only the only decision maker in the area, and decision makers are not only influential party in the area. There is growing influence. Some colleagues in the morning talked about regional power like Morocco or Turkey, but we are also talking about Gulf powers. I mean, Qatar and the Emirates have a say in Tunisia much more than France today, or they have the say in Libya much more than Europe. And ultimately, if a new model of cooperation needs to be presented by European organization, I think that the only advantage of this is to really align practices and values and discourse, and really have this advantage in which you support to civil society and government can push for the change in different systems. In conclusion, just one sentence of conclusion is that we do need to recover from compounded crisis and war based on value-based cooperation model that enable sovereignty over aid, so Lebanese sovereignty over aid, even if the government doesn't want that. Sometimes the idea, if when you do come with value and the discourse that is linked to practices, you can support civil society as well to push for this type of reform that are highly needed. So sovereignty over aid, not dependency, and challenging also this to be able to challenge a state aversion to change and reform. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Kanj. And now we travel to Egypt to introduce Professor Dr. Adel Azim, who serves as the president of the Agricultural Research Center at the Ministry of Agriculture and Land Reclamation of the Arab Republic of Egypt. He is widely recognized as one of Egypt's foremost scientific and institutional leaders in agricultural research, cotton production, and sustainable agricultural systems. And with over 30 years of professional and scientific experience, he has made significant contributions to applied agricultural research, innovation, and policy development, combining scientific excellence with a strategic vision for sustainable development and food security.
Good afternoon for everyone. It's my pleasure to attend this meeting here in CIHEAM Zaragoza because it's the first time I attend to visit CIHEAM Zaragoza. We thank you so much for Dr. Raul, Director of CIHEAM Zaragoza, and all the family team in CIHEAM Zaragoza. Also, I will come with all participate from international bodies. It's okay. I am Dr. Adel, President of Agricultural Research Center in Egypt. My presentation includes some points. The first point, short brief about the Agricultural Research Center. Also, second point, the map of Egypt, because this map explains the most challenges that's facing Egyptian sector in Egypt. Number three is the challenges that facing the Egyptian sector in Egypt. Number four, the Egyptian strategy to overcome the problems that facing Egyptian sector. And we'll finish with the last achievement or Agricultural Research Center. It's okay. Agricultural Research Center, the oldest and the biggest research center in Middle East and Africa. According to the Spanish classification, CIMAGO classification, LEAD classification, ARC ranked number 3 because it's applied research and extensive research out of 70 research center in Middle East and Africa. This classification depends on applied research, social impact, international application. This center, as we mentioned now, is the biggest and the oldest center in Middle East. It is membrane of Minister of Agriculture and Land Regulation in Egypt, also executive hand to help Minister of Agriculture to implement the new Egyptian new vision and Egyptian strategy 2030. This center include 16 research institute and 13 center lab. All of this institute and center under the umbrella of RC. We can divide this institute and center lab into 3 groups. The first group focus on plant production. The second group of institute and center lab focus on animal production. The third group focus on food safety. For example, for the institute that interested in plant production, field crop research institute, cotton research institute, horticulture, soil and water and environment institute, genetic engineering institute, agriculture engineering institute, agriculture extension, agriculture economy. The institute that represented second group, animal production research institute, animal health, animal reproductive research institute, beside vaccine and veterinary research institute. The third group, including protection, third group, food safety, including plant protection, plant biology institute, central lab for pesticide, central lab for residual pesticide. As mentioned now, all of this institute and center work under the umbrella of ARC. ARC affiliated Minister of Agriculture and Land Commission. Also, this center has 10,000 research for different agriculture area, as we mentioned now. Egypt on the map. Okay. This is Egyptian map. As we see, Egypt around 1 million square kilometer. Nile River divides this area into two main parts: East Desert, West Desert, and Sinai and the Delta. This is the four main parts in Egypt. East represented 22% from the total area. West represented 68%. Sinai 6%. If we collective this area, we see around 95% of the total area is desert. The question is, where is agriculture? Agriculture in the small area, in the Delta region in the north. This area around 6.1 million faddan from 7,000 years ago. 7.1 million acre. For this reason, the most challenges that facing Egyptian agriculture sector, limited of natural resource area, beside water scarcity, beside growth, population growth, beside land degradation. As we know, population, people in Egypt doubled from the last 30 years ago, from 50 people to 110 people now in this year. The people increased, the natural resource is limited. 6.1 million acre. The amount of water irrigation that available around 55 cubic meter from Nile River. This is the challenges that facing the Egyptian sector, beside land degradation. Why? Because the farmer every year planted around 3 crops per year. Maybe rice, followed by alfalfa, followed by vegetable crops. This is the challenges that facing Egyptian sector. We have good strategy to overcome these problems. The first, this strategy depends some axis or some pillar. The first axis, vertical expansion. It means increasing productivity per unit of area. For example, if we have 1 hectare, we reduce 1 ton from wheat, we need 2 ton, we need 3 ton. We plan to increasing productivity per area, per the same area. We succeed in this trend. We have good experience for Egypt. We can, through the expert of agriculture research center in Egypt, produce good variety for different agricultural crops. This variety now ranked around the world. Egypt ranked number 1 around the world for productivity per unit area, followed by French winter wheat. Also, rice. Egypt ranked number 1 around the world. I talk about the world, not about Africa. For rice, Egypt number 1. Egyptian variety produce 10 ton per hectare, followed by China. Also, we ranked number 4 for corn, also number 1 for cotton, for quality cotton. We have good succeed for good story for cereal crops, but on the other hand, vegetable crops we have the problem because we didn't have breeding program to produce vegetable seeds. But before 5 years ago, we start to establish new national program to produce vegetable seed. During this 5 years, we have 5 variety for tomato, 3 variety for cucumber, watermelon. Also have 10 variety. We start, but we need a long time to cover all cultivated area in Egypt with the Egyptian variety. As we talk with Dr. Liano before this presentation, he worked in African Bank. He see the Egyptian variety. He usually compare between the Egyptian variety and the other variety from different country, from South America, from European, from Africa. We have good variety because we have good breeding program, good expert. This is vertical expansion, increasing the productivity from a unit of land. The second axis to overcome the challenges that face Egyptian sector, horizontal expansion. How to edit desert land to become cultivated land. During the last 5 years, the government of Egypt can to added around 3.5 million acre from desert land to cultivated land. But all of this land depends on water table, groundwater, not on a river. Also, all of this area depends reduce pesticide, reduce chemical composition. For this reason, we usually need short duration variety to saving water irrigation, to escape from insect pests, to saving the life of the farmer. It's okay. This area, beside this new area, beside the old area, increasing the Egyptian export. As we see, as we know, the Egyptian export before 4 years, around 5 million tons per year. Now, in the last year, 2024, the Egyptian export around 7.3 million tons. In this year till now, we exceeded 9 million tons. At the end of this season, we can exceed 10 million tons from Egyptian export. The next axis also reduce the Egyptian imported. In the past, we export potato seeds, we export vegetable crop seeds, we export some fertilizer like NPK and potassium. Now, in cooperation between ARC and some private sector, we started to produce potato seeds in Egypt. In the last year, 2024, we produced around 1,000 tons. My plan in this year is 4,000 tons. I think during the next 4 years, we can cover all cultivated area in Egypt with Egyptian potato seeds. As also you know, Egypt member in UBOV, we can exchange germplasm between Egypt and any country member in UBOV. I ask about the current situation in Egypt. Limited agriculture area, limited water irrigation, population growth. What are the current situation in Egypt? Now we have self-sufficient for a lot of goods. We have self-sufficient for all vegetable crops. Tomato, potato, onion, pepper, garlic, sweet potato. We have self-sufficient, 100%. Also fruit. Also we have 100% self-sufficient from fruit plants. Cereal crops. We have kitchen, poultry, sugar. All of this we have self-sufficient. But the gap in just 3 goods. Red meat, because we didn't have grazing land, because Egypt not rain-fed. It's okay. Egypt classified as arid and the semi-arid area. Also, the second gap for plant oil, we planted around 200,000 acre with soybean. Also 100,000 with sunflower. In the past, we planted around 2 million acre with cotton, but now the cultivated area in cotton is reduced. Now we planted around 300,000, not 2 million. For this reason, we have gap for oil brand. 2 minutes, it's okay. Can I take 2 minutes from Dr. Okay. Okay, 2 minutes, I'm finished. Also, my foreign noted. The third gap for leaf bird. Egypt planted around 3 million acre with wheat. But this, the quantity of production represented around 50%. 50% of the total consumption. For this reason, we need another 3 million acre to achieve self-sufficiency of wheat. To solve the problem, we have cooperation between Agriculture Research Center and private sector to start to investment on some Asian and some African country to solve the three gaps: red meat and leaf bird and oil, plant oil. We will start with some African country like Sudan, like Chad, like Senegal. Also, we have cooperation between ARC and the private sector, Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan in Asia. The last point, the Egyptian variety, very good variety for the front crops. We can send some sample from any member from this meeting to evaluate this variety. When this variety is succeeded in your country, you can start to production these seeds in the commercial scale. Also, we try to a strong relation between ARC and some international bodies. Already we have a good cooperation between ARC and some international body like BREMA, like UNIDO, like CIHEAM for Institute, FAO, IFAD, CIMET, Africa, Rise, World Fish. Look forward to good meeting for all. Also, I hope a strong relation between Agriculture Sector in Egypt and all international bodies that attend this meeting. All speaker before me explain the role of international and cooperation and integration between all international bodies, between all agriculture sector, between agriculture sector and international university, between ARC and agriculture center and the private sector to solve the problem that facing agriculture sector, not only in Egypt, not only in the Mediterranean Sea, but also in all around the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Adel. And now we go to Morocco to introduce Lamiae Ghaouti. She's the Director General of the National Institute for Agricultural Research. She holds a PhD in agronomy, specializing in plant breeding and genetics from George August University of Göttingen, and received the Kurt von Rumker Award in 2009. Former professor and head of Department of Plant Production, Protection, and Biotechnology at IAV Hassan II. She also served as Director of Cooperation and Chair of the CIAM Advisory Committee, earning the CIAM Medal of Merit in 2023. Please, Lamiae.
Thank you very much. And dear colleagues, it's my pleasure to be among you today and in my family. I would always say that. So thank you, Raul, for your kind invitation and also for seeking to sustain this connection that I cherish so much. So I will contribute today by giving a very resumed overview of the strategic impact of INRA, focusing on the actual collaboration, but also on the future challenges. Well, we've heard today, of course, that the challenges are very common. So here are some key numbers in Morocco for agriculture, where you can see that whether from the GDP point of view or exportations or also employment, and specifically rural employment, agriculture is really fundamental. All the challenges, they are perfectly shared, whether they are climatic challenges or we have the scarcity also of and degradation of natural resources and also the population growth and of course all the geopolitical challenges we were talking or all speakers were talking about this morning mean that we have to face, what is common, the problems are very common between all of us. Now, with this, that means that if you want to have sustainable agriculture, and it was said before, is that we have to do more and we have to do better and we have to do it with less resources. So that's a very complex equation. And this equation means that we have to have, I'm sorry, there is some mistake there. We need adaptation and to reinvent. So it's really shifting and reinventing it. For me, if we want to decrease the vulnerability and to increase production, we need necessarily to put the key factor, which is the technological progress and research and development. And at the same time, if we want to do so, cooperation is at the heart of it if you want to make it very efficient. So it is for sure very important that you don't do it alone, but you do it with others as a way to do it faster and better. I would like just to say, okay, within all of that, where is Morocco? Morocco is today driving a national strategy on agriculture, which is the green generation. And this strategy is focusing on two pillars. The first one is the sustainability of the systems, of the production systems. This is what you see in the right side. And then there is another priority, I'm sorry if it's in French and Arabic, and the other priority is the one about the humans. So it means in the agricultural strategy, we are not focusing just on resources and plants, we are focusing also on humans, so people. And I'm not going to detail all that, but it's really meaning we have, you can see the objectives that are really well set for the strategy and by 2030 where we should be within each aspect. What I want to say is that within this strategy, we have also a roadmap for research and development and innovation. And this roadmap is focusing mainly on how to increase or objectives to increase yield, to develop new varieties. That's very important, breeding. My colleague was speaking about it just a few minutes ago. And then how to valorize agricultural production, development of alternative agricultures, and also soil conservation, water efficiency, digital development, and also all techniques about the diffusion of and transfer of innovation. And here, the Institute is the leader of this roadmap, so of the national politics when it is about research and development. So INRA in numbers is, first, it's an old lady. I always say that, 114 years. So meaning we have a very, very, an institution with a very old reputation, 600 human resources, 200 researchers, and 10 regional centers. It's fundamental because you have to act through all Morocco. So we are not based in one. We have to serve all the agroecological conditions all over Morocco. Many experimental stations, research services, units, etc., and also serving the supervision and hosting of students and publications. Of course, you could see the stations and also the regional centers all over Morocco. What we are doing in terms of programs. In terms of programs today, we are addressing the research in both vertical and horizontal approach. What does it mean, vertical approach? In a vertical approach, but still in connection, you have first is the conservation, genetic resources conservation. And INRA has a gene bank, another gene bank that is going, a center that is going to be inaugurated in the next maybe months. So with the possibility to have over 200,000 accessions, which is a huge number. And within the genetic resources conservation, we have the value chain development. That's very important for all crops. And then quality and valorization. So these are the three poles. And then you have another one that is completely transversal, which is the alternative agriculture, type of agriculture. So here you would find the agroforestry, organic farming, conservation agriculture, and digital agriculture. And in the center, you will find dissemination and transfer of innovations. And these poles are actually translated into 15 programs you are seeing here. So you have, as I said, the alternative agriculture. This is what you have in the top. And then you have all the cropping systems that are strategic, whether cereal, legumes, etc., that are developed in a chain value from the upstream until the downstream. And then you have the transfer, and innovation, dissemination, and transfer is, of course, the most transversal aspect for all this program, because having research without dissemination would mean absolutely nothing. So in cooperation, if I want to focus on cooperation, what we are having as objective. So first, we want in INRA to have expertise, funding, infrastructure, to have the relevance of it, the capacity building, and the visibility. So this is what we are aiming through our programs of cooperation. Today, we have about 60%, oh, sorry. I was moving in my computer, but not in your screen. I'm sorry for that. So as I said, expertise, funding, infrastructure, relevance, capacity building, and visibility. And today we have about 60%, this is national cooperation, and then 37% is international, around development services and also research. This is just some numbers I have just put for the projects that we have today. Like some projects we have today in 2025, and you could see that our collaboration with Europe is extremely intense. The other thing is that, just to give a little bit some history about this collaboration that started with many programs that you are recognizing that were in the past. You would see first the European Framework Program for Research and Development. There is also ARIMNet. You have also the European Commission research with IFAD. There is also Marie Curie actions. We have also the European Commission's programs and PRIMA. So these are programs we are running also today, and Horizon also. So these are actually all the kind of, let's say, mechanisms we are using in our international collaboration, of course, excluding the bilateral collaboration. So this is if we take the different mechanisms. Now, if I see what we have with the Mediterranean countries, so 95% of our collaboration, so it's within the Mediterranean countries, and we have 90% is with the the northern countries, and 10% is with the southern countries. It was very interesting for me just to see that, to understand how is it like very balanced, or is it where it's more shift toward one part or the other one. So very diversified thematics that we are addressing in this cooperation. I'm not going to go through them. I just want to say that if we want to reinforce cooperation in the Mediterranean area, we would need first to really ensure a seed sovereignty in strategic crops. This is, now I'm talking about what we need in collaboration from Moroccan perspective. We need breeding resilient varieties, but we do need them with in a shorter time. And this is a challenge for all geneticians that are among us. So meaning to have speed breeding, gene editing, so to go toward really technologies that could fasten a little bit and shorten the period of that. The other thing is how to use also another aspect is about animal breeding and animal production. We have a very big challenge in Morocco, how to breed for resilient also animal production. The other thing is water scarcity, and how to develop integrated management system, reducing the demand while exploring alternative sources for the offer. We have also the energy. Energy is fundamental because we have to promote the use of renewable energy technologies and energy efficient practices. I would cite, as I said before, all the alternative agricultures. We are investing a lot in agroecology, in organic farming and conservation agriculture. By 2030, we have to reach 1 million hectare minimum of conservation agriculture. That's very important. And then also the food systems and value chain to strengthen local processing and promote sustainable food value chain. For me, just to strengthen three things, maybe among all what we have said, solution, as I said before, is nothing if not delivered and adopted. So this is why, for me, it is important to have the innovation platforms. And when we say innovation platforms, it means that you have your end users that are, or stakeholders that are integrated from the beginning of your trials of whatever you are testing, even testing it within their farms, etc. So this process is not generalized. It's not used everywhere. And this is why sometimes, or not sometimes, most of the time, there is a big gap of the solutions you have and the one that are adopted. For me, that's really the challenge that we have to overcome. The other thing is about how to shift from pilot to large adoption, because most of the time you have success always in pilot situation, but never in scaling up. It means that you have to have solutions that are integrating also economic and social dimension beyond the technological solution itself. And that's really a very big challenge for us to really make the difference within the end users, because this is what we are looking for. It's the impact, not the research itself. And the third aspect is about, of course, you do it while you are taking in consideration the inclusiveness of the gender and also young people to be integrated in these approaches. Finally, I want just to say that if we want to reinforce cooperation in the Mediterranean area, and I'm finishing with that, so we need first to have topics, as you said before, that are systematic and regional. So systems, no project, no silos, but systems. Second thing, the partnership. It needs to be South-South and triangular cooperation. As you have seen, we have a lack in the South-South cooperation. And triple helix approach. For me, when you have the private research and government that are involved, it is a key success for the projects or any thematic that you are implementing. The knowledge management and transfer, that's a key point. Many speakers were talking about that this morning. You have data. The problem is that we are not sharing data among, we are not, thank you. We are not sharing data among us. So knowledge management, how to have the exchange of data, how to have, as I said before, the platforms, the innovation platforms, the hubs, the living labs, and scaling up is a key aspect. The mechanisms, for me, we have to have specific mechanisms also, and co-creation and shared innovation ecosystems. This co-creation aspect is fundamental. We are not used to work in co-creation, but now we have to work as scientists co-creating with others, because we used to think that we are actually enough to produce whatever we have to do. It's not true. The last aspect, which is not the least in importance, is the governance, because we have to align with the national priorities, knowledge system and research capacities, and also to have flexibility to adjust. because we don't have in our governance system to adjust while you are doing your programs. If there is something that is coming you have to have this flexibility to readjust. And also, one point that is very important is also food politics and strategy. Food politic and strategy versus agriculture politic and strategy. We are mixing them a lot, in my country at least, which is a big problem, and we need maybe to drive a big brainstorming about how to implement a food and politic and strategy separated from agriculture, food, politic and strategy, agriculture being part of the food strategy and politics, but not exactly the same. So with that, I thank you a lot for your attention, and I'm thanking all the partners that are working for INRA. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Lamia. And now, for the sake of time, we will open the floor for the audience. There are two questions here.
Yeah, thank you. Very short comments. One to Kanj. I mean, first, thank you so much for raising the issue of food as a weapon of war in the context of southern Lebanon. The same could apply, of course, in the case of the Gaza Strip or in Sudan and in other contexts, right? And I just want to say that, I mean, you made the rhetoric question, right? Is this admissible? But I just want to spell out, although, of course, the response to it, although, of course, we know, of course, it's not. It's completely against international humanitarian law and international human rights law. And we really have to repeat that to ourselves. Even having peace agreements where one of the conditions is if one side do this, then we will allow food to enter, are completely legal, because the rights of the people to get food cannot be put in question under any circumstance, right? And we see a step back in every new war happening in terms of undermining these basic rights. And the other is a comment to Fernando, because I really like the sincerity on how you describe the challenges of the African Development Bank and this transition ongoing, Africa becoming a net importer of foodstuffs, transition and so on. And you kind of mentioned that, but if you could elaborate a bit more, why is that European countries who are providing development aid to Africa are not really building further on their own internal policies towards protecting small farming, promoting cooperatives, rural development programs for remote areas, and so on, right? It's like things that we have been applying in Europe itself and that part of our own policies, but whenever we promote certain agendas, I'm referring basically to Europe, what we do is basically promote a traditional green revolution model, right? When we talk about the big numbers. Of course, there is agroecological programs, et cetera, but they are really not the mainstream.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation on the African Development Bank and then on Lebanon, Egypt, and Morocco. It's very interesting. I have two questions. One is for Kanj on Lebanon. You talked about the aversion of the states for reform. Can you dig into this a little bit further beyond the classical answer of why states don't want to reform? Is there something specific to Lebanon? Has there been attempts to change, and what is the resistance? The second question is to you again, but also with Lamia. Both Lebanon and Morocco have parallel economies. I don't want to be controversial, but there's also agriculture kind of illegal, illicit, crops, and that affects. Or my question is, how does this affect the agricultural system, the agriculture and food system in both countries and Mediterranean and international cooperation? Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to take more question or if no, quickly, just I'm definitely certain that FAO right to food person is I mean, one of FAO right to food person is going to take a value-based stand on that. What we didn't have the time much to discuss, but it's also a relationship between North and South, and the idea is the North as a European country here within our context let's put it bluntly, we do not have the best governments in the world, nor in Lebanon, nor in, I don't want to talk for present country, but let's say not around, at least not in Lebanon. And the EU always also extended this partnership to civil society organization, to human rights organization, to local association, they had democratic fund, transition funds also going to civil society. The idea is when we do not have the best government in the world and the cooperation also kind of, for several reasons, kept renewing the same type of system, of political system, of governance system, while trying to work a little bit with civil society. If a certain European country do not stand by value standard, how to build a trust relationship with civil society? Why did civil society in our country spend years saying we don't want money from the Saudi Arabia, we don't want money from Qatar, we don't want money from the Emirates, we want money from Europe, we don't want money from USAID, many of them. We want money from Europe because we share the same values. And somehow this trust with many countries, with of course many exceptions, but with many countries is a bit hard to swallow with what we went through. I mean, for us Lebanese, so imagine for what the Palestinians are still today going through. To go to the second question on aversion to reform, yes, I mean, the Lebanese state is a very conservative state and a very liberal state. Since independence, it's for open trade. It did not access the WTO because there was no need. Anyway, there was no tariffs. So everything is very liberal, and the system is built on the fact that I allow a group of oligopolistic who control market, not only in agriculture, in many other sectors as well, to do whatever they want and to grow the economy. And I am left with another part of the country which is lacking behind. So I kind of try to redistribute as much as I can. If as a state cannot redistribute, it's fine, non-state actor will do it. The Gulf will do it, the Iranian will do it, the European will do it. It doesn't matter. I will find a system through which this redistribution will happen. And today, for example, another example that shows this conservatism, the idea that we want to keep bank secrecy, that we want to keep liberal. Today, the IMF and the World Bank are saying we have a support package, but you need to do reform in the banking system. And Lebanon is saying, no, thank you. We don't want it. We're not going to go. We prefer not receiving the money and like removing bank secrecy. We will not remove bank secrecy. We don't want the money. So it's very, very hard to go through this reform process because this informality is needed, this free riding is needed, this non-competitive market are needing. This is how the system has been working historically. So it's very hard to break it and many organizations and like FAO or others, well, FAO recently did some interesting thing in terms of policy change, but sometimes they say, well, it's just too difficult, it's just too hard. If they don't want to, how can I take them there? The last question on the illicit crop, I don't know about the situation in Morocco. In Lebanon, it's a very marginal crop in a sense that it's anyway in system where you cannot really plant anything else. Like up in the mountains and this type of areas, one of which is my village. But there is a process of liberalization, of legalization, at least for health first, hopefully for everything later. So there is a type of problem, but it doesn't interfere with the rural dynamic. The problem is that somehow this type of production is from the past in a sense that all the illicit production is now chemical and this is highly impacting violence and conflict and cross-border conflict in our areas, and it's becoming a different type of problem. It's not farmers, it's like micro-industrial producers of chemical pills that goes around. And this is another problem that is affecting rural social dynamics and creating violent conflict internally and with our neighbors, Syrian neighbors in that case, and with the Gulf. Especially that it's being, from a certain period, it was smuggled through agricultural exports. So we were banned from agricultural export for a while, and that was problematic a bit. Thank you.
If I might just add, I'm sorry because I had some problem understanding just the question. So in Morocco, if we are speaking about illicit crops, so we are speaking mostly about cannabis, the cropping of cannabis. And I want to say that lately, Morocco has created an agency, ANRAC. It's an agency for regulation for cannabis. It means that today, there is no conflict. It's much more now we are going toward a road where what was illicit is now becoming licit. So it is putting the regulation around that. It is, of course, now it is used for non-recreative purposes, but much more for the other purposes that are, there are many uses for that, but we are going toward that. And so that's the first thing. The answer is that Morocco is not blind to it in its institutions, so it is integrating it now as a first step in the institutions. And that's a very big step toward regulation and putting a formal frame to whatever production is in Morocco. The second thing from my perspective as INRA, I'm working since 3 years on not breeding, but the understanding and the characterization of genetic resources of cannabis, and also the breeding of specific, or at least to have the genetic material that what we call local, it's like the land races in Morocco, because we have some problem, big problem of these genetic resources in a way that the imported material is polluting whatever genetic diversity we have in Morocco. And in order to preserve it, so we have a program where we are breeding our own line that are completely different from the lines that are coming from the import. So it's very strategic. That's a patrimoine of Morocco. We are recognizing it, but at the same time, we have to go step by step into fully using it, valorizing it, and also sharing the benefits and having the benefits for the local communities. Thank you.
Just want to add that our Lebanese product is better than Moroccan.
Any other question? I don't think we have more questions. Yeah, Raúl.
Voy a hacer una pregunta a Fernando, te la hago en español directamente. Fernando, ¿cuál es el potencial que tiene África en su totalidad? Si pudieras hacer una fotografía global, aunque hay muchas diferencias, ¿qué capacidad tiene para ser autosuficiente en lo esencial África? Es decir, ¿cuál sería tu visión desde un banco de desarrollo, que me imagino que hará escenarios de prospectiva a 10, 20, 30, 40 años, teniendo en cuenta los dos factores que has mencionado, aumento de la superficie cultivable, aumento margen de incremento de la productividad, posible integración regional en acuerdos regionales, mejores de las infraestructuras para crear mercados interafricanos? ¿Ves en un escenario, estamos en Europa siempre haciendo escenarios, 2040, 2050, en temas de seguridad alimentaria, no te digo de soberanía, autonomía estratégica, ¿no? Como se dice ahora, alimentaria. ¿Ves factible que los países africanos, con la cooperación, evidentemente internacional, sean capaces en un momento dado de ser el gran agujero negro de la seguridad alimentaria?
Bueno, sí, claro que lo veo. Por eso todavía estoy ahí. Pero mira, te puedo hablar particularmente de la zona en que estoy concentrado, que es la parte de las sabanas, que es un bioma bastante similar al del Cerrado brasilero, donde nos concentramos en 3 crops, que es soyabín, maíz y livestock, y el subsiguiente cadena de valor de livestock, son 400 millones de hectáreas. Hay un debate sobre si las 400 tienen el mismo grado de arabilidad, digámoslo, para entrar en producción, pero sí, y es tal así que hay incluso en algunos mercados que están mostrando, en algunos cultivos que están mostrando resultados buenos. Maíz, por ejemplo, ahora Costa de Marfil es exportador regional de maíz, que maíz llega hasta Senegal, hasta Níger, bueno, evidentemente Nigeria es el gran consumidor de la región, pero incluso estamos con rendimientos de 2 toneladas por hectárea. Entonces hay un gran... en la plataforma del presidente, cuando estuvo haciendo sus speech, cuando asumió, él habló de un déficit de inversión en desarrollo total de 400 billones de dólares por año. Entonces, hay evidentemente un problema de infraestructura grande que está avanzando fuertemente, particularmente por la entrada de China, que está ganando todas las licitaciones de infraestructura de todos los mecanismos posibles de financiación. Pero también hay una modificación y sobre algunos actores no tradicionales, como son compañías internacionales como por ejemplo Japón, Mitsubishi, que bueno, compró Olam, que es una de las grandes empresas de trading de alimentos de África, que ahora entra en partnership y casi venta con Arabia Saudita. Entonces, todavía China no está entrando fuerte, pero Japón está presente. Los inversores del mundo árabe están presentes en todo lo que es la intención de la cadena de valor. O sea, vemos también China que está invirtiendo muchísimo en los silos portuarios de cereales, están construyendo, sobre todo en África del Oeste. Y sí, hay posibilidades, pero bueno, falta también los mercados urbanos de alimentos están adquiriendo una escala interesante para financiar unidades de procesamiento local. Sobre todo tenemos un gran desafío con el arroz y con la producción de livestock. Pero esos son, creo que, los 3 sectores que pueden dar sorpresas. Vemos una reducción en el algodón. Hay una migración de algodón hacia maíz. Bueno, después hay regiones que todavía no sabemos cómo van a reaccionar. Una es Mozambique, toda la parte de Tanzania está respondiendo. Zambia está muy fuerte con la primera fábrica de Bayer de híbridos. O sea, es una de las primeras, salvo Sudáfrica, está creciendo bastante, es autosuficiente en cereales, está exportando también carne a la región. Zambia hizo un sistema de repartición de tierras con el sector privado que le permitió tener inversión del sector privado. Mozambique tiene algunos grados de fragilidad todavía, pero es muchísima tierra arable que puede entrar. Y después, bueno, algunas evoluciones que pueden pasar en Benin, en Togo, que pueden mejorar un poco la mercado.
Gracias. Te quería preguntar, aprovechando si me permites, a los gobiernos nacionales y a vosotros como banco multilateral, ¿os preocupa el acaparamiento de tierra? Es decir, cuando veis grandes inversores, ¿no? Como los que estás hablando, esto es un tema que hace unos años se hablaba mucho, ¿no? Y que todavía ahora parece que ha perdido un poco de actualidad, pero sigue siendo como una amenaza, ¿no? Es decir, el acaparamiento y la compra de tierras por parte de estos fondos de estos países, pero pensando en sus mercados, no en los mercados locales.
Claro.
¿Cuál es vuestra posición al respecto?
Hay algunos pocos países que permiten esa compra grande de tierra. Lo que hay, y si cuando ves, pueden ser 20.000 hectáreas, pero hay 3 millones en el mismo país que no están debidamente explotadas, digámoslo. Entonces es anecdótico, es impactante, pero no tanto. Después, por ejemplo, los complejos de producción de azúcar. Es un mercado bastante complejo, entonces se necesita un operador fuerte local y se le conceden 20.000, 30.000 hectáreas. Eso está pasando en Nigeria, pasa en Tanzania, pasa en Costa de Marfil, pero es para producción local. Después sí, hay algunos casos donde hay territorios que dicen que están exportando. Todavía no tengo claro esos fondos, cómo funcionan, y no lo vimos en el radar todavía así de una manera como lo ven las ONG, ¿no? Que hay algunas que se dedican a hacer el tracking del land grabbing constantemente, que recibimos acusaciones del banco, pero nosotros no financiamos eso y no lo siento que sea una amenaza. De hecho, pueden ayudar a estructurar las cadenas de valor. Nosotros tenemos un programa que se llama Zonas Especiales de Agroprocesamiento, que es tratar de construir un poco de infraestructura en algunos lugares cerca de las zonas arables de producción de materia prima para poder crear un valor, porque si no es más barato importar de San Pablo los barcos que mover 100 kilómetros el cereal hacia el mercado de consumo. Entonces ahí un actor mediano grande puede ayudar a estructurar el resto de la cadena de valor por un tema de infraestructura, sharing, bienes clubs que se pueden generar.
Well, time to close the panel. Thank you very much to all the speakers. It was very nice to share with you the session. And well, I think in terms of context, it is clear that there are vulnerabilities in structural but also circumstantial that are combined with a reduction of cooperation flows. They are already feeling this, and also that there is a shift in the origin of these funds, and also a need to scale up the research findings. No? So these trends are fought back through building new alliances and partnerships, through strategies at country level, through research and technology, and also through resilient varieties and also innovative farming systems. So we will see where we end up. Thank you very much to everyone.